everybody, it is Rachel here with Yarn at Play Crochet. Today I'm going to do a quick tutorial to show you how to do this Peek-A-Boo Chevron Stitch. This is a infinity scarf that I am working on right now, and I've just been having so much fun with this stitch. I thought that I would do a quick tutorial on it so that you can see exactly what the basics of the stitch are. So when I get around to doing a full tutorial for this infinity scarf, you have a good grasp of the basic stitch and can go ahead and launch into this. And maybe just grabbing this extra stitch in your repertoire, you can do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So this is what it looks like worked up in a bigger swatch here. I'd say I'm probably a third of the way done with my scarf. And the cool thing about this stitch too is, I don't know if you can really see it, but it creates not only this chevron pattern with these little peek-a-boo holes here, but it also kind of gives it, like, it has a wave to it. Like, it naturally wants to ridge up in these spots where you have the contrasting stitches and the chevrons. So that's kind of a fun added texture element to it too. Would look really, really cool worked up as a blanket. All right, so enough of that. We can get into the tutorial. If you're interested in finding this yarn, I will link it in the description below. I just got my hands on some yesterday and I've been loving it. It is Lana Bella from Ice Yarn, and it is just really, really pretty. So that is the yarn. That is the stitch. Now let's go ahead and get into it. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please take a quick second and do that. That really helps me to be able to keep creating this content for you guys. All those in-depth yarn reviews and all kinds of yarny goodness. So be sure to like this and subscribe to my channel. So let's get started. I'm just using some old Lillian cream cotton that I had laying around for this demonstration. And so we can get into it here. So start off by just doing a slip knot, and you are going to do a chain in multiples of 10 plus 3 more for your foundation stitch. So go ahead. I'm going to, just for our purposes today, I'm just going to go ahead and chain 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that's my 2 multiples of 10. And then I'm going to go ahead and do 3 more for our foundation chain. 1, 2, and 3. All right, so we have our foundation chain here, and what you're going to do is you're going to make your first double crochet stitch right into the 4th chain from the hook that you just made. So count back your bumps here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So do your first double crochet into that 4th chain stitch there. Yarn over, pull off 2, yarn over, pull off 2. And then you're going to go ahead and do 3 more double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. One, 2, and 3. Now to start the chevron, all we're going to do is we are going to skip the next 2 stitches, the next 2 chains, and then we're going to do our next double crochet into that 3rd chain there. So you can see as we started here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet plus that chain 3, which works as our first double crochet here. So go ahead and yarn over, get ready to do your next double crochet. So skip 1, 2 chains and go into that next chain there, that third chain. And then go ahead, and after you do that first one, you'll have this little gap here. That is what is going to be the bottom of our first V. And then we're going to go ahead and do 3 more double crochet into the next 3 chains. So this works up as little sides of 4. 1, 2, and 3. Now we have our 2 starts to our first V completed. And now we're not going to skip any stitches here, but we are going to chain 2 to make the top ridge of the next V. So chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to double crochet right into the very next stitch. So do not skip any stitches on your chain for this part. So it works in sets of when you're in the bottom of your V, you skip 2 on the bottom. And when you're at the top of your V, you chain 2 more to add that top of V shape. And then don't skip any on the bottom here. So go right into the very next chain with your next double crochet. And then do 3 more into the next 3 chains. One, 2, 3. So you can see how we're starting to get our highs and lows there. Now we're going to be at a low point because we just did a top of our V. So instead of chaining 2, we're going to skip 2 chains here on the bottom. So skip this one and skip this one and work into your third chain, your next double crochet stitch. And we are getting close to the end of our first row, oops, of stitches here. So do double crochets into the next 2 stitches and then we'll be at our end. 1, oop, sorry, bumped my camera. Ooh, get that to settle down there. So we have our bottom V here, we have 3 double crochet here, and we have 1 more chain left. Into this last chain here, we're going to do 2 double crochet. So on each side, you're going to have a total of 5 double crochet, but only on the outside edges of your V. You can make this as long as you want, and all of the ones on the inside are going to have 4, except for the ones on the outside edges of your row. Those are both going to have 5. So on this side here, that chain 3 works as a double crochet, and that just keeps that sides straight. So you can see here on this, my sides are not crooked. My sides are straight, even though I'm working up at an angle. So my angles go up, but my sides don't go out and stay out like that. They stay straight. And that's because we have those 2 double crochet stitches in the sides of our row. And that's what reorients it from being a V this way to being a nice straight edge. Hopefully that makes sense. So in this last stitch here, this last chain here, we're going to do 2 double crochet stitches. So there's 1, and there is 2. Now, that was the hardest part. You have your chevrons established, And now from here on out, it's just a 1 row repeat. And so this project, this pattern, this stitch, it goes really, really quickly. It's very simple. It is a super good pattern for beginner crocheters, because really the only thing that you have to know how to do is how to chain and how to double crochet, which for the most part are the two things that you start out learning to do when you crochet. So now that we're here on our edge, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work, and then we're not going to skip anything here in that very first stitch, because remember we need to have 2 double crochet on our sides. In that very first stitch, you're going to do your next double crochet. And now you're going to do 4 more double crochet in each stitch along here. So, or excuse me, not 4 more, 3 more. 1, 2, 3. So now here we have our chain 3 on our edge. We have our 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet, and now you should be right here. Now instead of just skipping chains, we're going to be skipping these next 2 stitches. So you're going to skip 1, skip 2, and then you're going to work into this stitch right here, your next double crochet. And then do 3 more double crochet to finish this side of your V. So there's 1, 2, and now we've run out of stitches and we just have this big gap hole here. So our last stitch on our upward side is going to go right into this big gap here. So that is what it should look like. You skipped your 2 down in the bottom of your valley, then you did 1, 2, 3 into stitches, and then you should have 1 stitch into this big hole here. And then you're going to go ahead and chain 2, just like you did on the last row at the top of your V. And then you're going to go ahead and do 1 more double crochet into this big gap space here, kind of like you were creating the corner of a granny square. And then go ahead and do 3 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. One, 2, 3. And then you're going to skip the next 2 stitches because you're in a valley, you're at the bottom of your chevron. So go ahead and yarn over, skip 1, 2, and go into stitch number 3 right there. One, and then you're going to do 3 more stitches to get to your edge. Or 2 more stitches to get to your edge. And then when we get to the chain 3, I will show you what I do when we get to that chain 3. So there is 3 double crochet. Now I need to do 2 more. And when I get to the corner of my edges, my chains, I'm looking at the back side of my chains here because I turned my work after I did my 3 chains. So I look for this right here. So this is a stitch that I just worked into right here. And the very next bump right there is where I'm going to look to go. Now, if you want to, you can go straight into here. You can just skip trying to work into those chains and you can just work into that gap space. I don't like to do that just simply because then it creates a hole. And I try to avoid holes on the edges of my work. So instead of going into that space, which you can do if you want to, but what I look to do is I look for this little X right here. You kind of see how that makes a little X, and I put my hook up right underneath that X to get those 2 little loops on my hook, and that is my top chain stitch coming in from the back, and that is where I'm going to be working my next 2 double crochet stitches to finish out this row. So yarn over, go ahead and do your first double crochet, and once you get that first one in, it's really easy to find the place that you were just at to do your second one. And if you have a hard time remembering where that stitch is, you can always, as you do your corner here, so see, I'm doing 1, 2, 3 to do my corner. You can always grab a stitch marker and just pop a stitch marker right into this chain stitch here. I would go ahead and put it in the top 2 loops. So you see how there's 2 loops, 1, and then the yarn that's coming up. I'd pop my stitch marker right in there, and that way I know exactly where my hook needs to go when I get to my next end. But if you're a more experienced crocheter, you know what it looks like, and you don't want to use a stitch marker, that's fine too. But that's a great way to kind of cheat the system a little bit and be able to know exactly where you're going on your corners, on your ends, so that you don't get confused and don't wind up messing up your stitch count. So now we're back here again. I did my chain 3, and now I'm going to go right back into that very first double crochet stitch right there. And I'm going to start working along my row. So there's my first one. There's my second one into the next stitch. My third one. And my fourth one. Now I'm going to skip 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and I'm going to work my next double crochet right into that 3rd stitch right there. And then work my next 3 stitches across. 1, 2, and now I run out of stitches, so I'm going right into this big gap here. 3. So I have a total of 4 double crochet working up that side. And now I'm going to chain 2 to make the top of my ridge, the top of my chevron. Then I'm going to double crochet into that big gap again. Hopefully this is starting to be a little simpler. And then double crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to skip my next 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to work my next double crochet right into that 3rd stitch right there. 1, 2, 3. That's my last stitch. So I'm going to look again for those little bumps, that little X. That's right there. Sometimes the chains can get a little bunched up, so that hole can be real tiny and small. So it just kind of takes a little bit of looking for it, a little bit of an experienced eye to snag out exactly what you're looking for. But as I said before, you can always pop a stitch marker in there when you do your chain 3, just so it's easier to identify if you choose to. So I'm going to go ahead, pop my hook. Oop, focus in there. Pop my hook in that chain. So I have 2 on my hook right there. Pull my loop through. Do my first double crochet. And then right into that same little hole, I'm going to do my second double crochet. And that is how you work your edges all the way up. And that is how you avoid a hole on your sides. So chain 3, pop a stitch marker into that top chain if you need to, and then turn your work and keep on going. So you can see how we get this nice little zigzag pattern with those little peekaboo holes. And it makes it a really nice, simple chevron pattern. You don't have any like big, like 3 double crochet together or double crochet increases. You just have to chain a couple stitches and skip a couple stitches, and you get this really nice chevron pattern. And it's kind of fun because it makes it just a little bit lacy, just a little bit more breathable. So this would work up great for any kind of summer project or garment that you want to be just a little bit more breathable. But I am planning on working this up into an infinity scarf, and I do plan on wearing this all winter long. I am not worried about that at all. Now I will say with this, I did modify the pattern just a smidge. So instead of having, and these are 2 different weights of yarn, so that might throw you off a little bit. But on the basic pattern where you have your multiples of 10 plus 3 for your foundation row, what I did is instead of having 4 stitches to each side of the chevron, I wanted to have 5. Okay, so I was attempting to explain how I turned my pattern mathematically from being just 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches per side of the chevron into here being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches on the side of the chevron. And I feel like I explained it poorly. So this is my 3rd attempt to explain how I did my stitch count to increase the amount of stitches on each side of each little chevron here. Hopefully 3rd time's a charm, and this will make sense. So this is worked up in multiples of 10. A multiple of 10 will get you 1 chevron. Okay, that's a down and an up. That is what 10 stitches will get you. So if you want to say add 4 more stitches to the side, so you have a total of 8 stitches all the way along the side, what you need to do is you need to add 4 more stitches to count towards this side and 4 more stitches to count towards this side, so that you would get a total of 18 stitches. So just think about how long you want your sides to be. So if I wanted to add 3 more stitches, I would so I could get a total of 7. What I would do is I would look at this, I'd say, okay, I need 3 stitches here, and I need an extra 3 stitches here, which gets me a total of 6 stitches. So I need to have 16 stitches to do 1 chevron. And you can make that go all the way across. And if you already have kind of in mind, like I just worked this in a multiple, so this is 40 stitches across originally, and I just wanted to add 1 stitch to each side of my chevron. What I did, because I was only adding 1 more, I just said, okay, well, what's 40 divided by 5? Because I know that 5 stitches is going to get me here. Show you on this one. 5 stitches is going to get me this, because I skip a stitch down here, and that gets me to here. So that's what 5 stitches will get me. So what I will do is I will take that 5, I'll take 40 divided by 5, which is 8, which is correct because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, and then I will just add 8 stitches. So this wound up being 48 chains across plus the 3 for the base row. If I wanted to add 2, then I would have to say, okay, this is 40 stitches across, and I divided that by 5, which gave me 8 because I have 8 sides. So then I'm going to take those 8 sides and I'm going to add 2 stitches per side. So 2 times 8. 2 times 8 will get me 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So I need to add 16 stitches to my total, which would get me to 56 stitches. Plus I have to do that 3 to turn the corner. And you can do it that way as well. If you have a certain number of chevrons that you want to do that's great. If you just work a certain number of stitches and you say, okay, this is approximately how big I want this to be widthwise, I just want to add 1 or 2 stitches per side to just give me a little bit of extra width and a little bit of extra length on my sides because I want a bigger, wavier chevron, then you can add it up that way as well. So just count however that total sets of 10 is. This was 40 stitches. I divided that, take whatever that number is. So say you have 60 stitches or 70 stitches, whatever it is, divide it by 5, and then take that number, that result of your division, and take that, and then you can add from there because that'll give you exactly how many sides you have. And then you can say, okay, well, I want 3 per side and I have 8 sides. So I'm going to do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. I can skip out, count by 3s. And that will tell you how many stitches you need to add to your base chain, that base multiple of 10. I'm really hoping that made more sense as to how to increase this. I'm not a math whiz. I don't pretend to be, but I hope that helped you figure out if you want to make your sides of your chevron a little bit longer. If you're not worried about it, you think that cute little small chevron is just the ticket, then go for it. This is worked up in a 4-weight yarn. This is worked up in a 3-weight yarn, and this is with 5 stitches per side. So you can see the difference there. Either way, it's a fantastic pattern. It's super fun. I really like it a lot. I hope this tutorial was nice and clear. If you have any problems at all, feel free to comment below and I will do my best to help you troubleshoot. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please take a second and do that. That really helps me out here to be able to get this content seen by more people and goes a really long way to support the channel. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up as well so that more people have eyes and can increase their little community here at Yarn It Play Crochet. Check out my Instagram, which is at Yarn It Play Crochet. Check out my Facebook page. You can just go to Facebook and search for Yarn It Play Crochet and my page should pop right up. And we also have a Facebook group, the Yarn It Play Crochet Crew. Check me out on all those places so you can get sneak peeks on what I'm working on. And you can kind of get an idea of what my days look like while I am crocheting up and hanging out with the kiddos and all that good stuff. In the meantime, thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope that this was helpful. I can't wait to see what you guys work up with this super fun peephole chevron, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.